Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sudowrite Roundtable. I'm Nicole, and today's episode actually features just me because of the topic. We figure these are going to be pretty long videos, and there won't be enough room for all four of us. So be on the lookout for probably 3 more videos so all of us can show you exactly how we use Story Engine. So I'm going to give you my process from beginning to end. So I want to show you this first. This is just a simple project I made, named it prompt so I know what it was talking about. But having everything that I repeatedly use here helps keep me from having to go to the Google Docs or somewhere else on top of the other websites that I need to visit. So this is a prompt I repeatedly use in ChatGPT and Notion, and that's to help expand my beats. And this is a beat header, courtesy of Mindy, that I just tweaked a little bit for my preference. This is content and TV and movie ratings for the content warnings. And I always put this in my style box for like my erotica and stuff like that. And these are the more descriptive styles, like what I used to use. Now I do like to combine, especially like with this one, suspenseful tone with occasional moments of humor and sarcasm, along with whatever I need from the TV ratings. And spicy authors, I did find that using these content warnings generated the prose more in line of what I was looking for and say this of what I used to use. So just want to show you all that. And I'm going to be using a clean story so nobody has to worry about any content. So I always start with style and genre, filling everything out the way I need to. This particular one's going to have the violence mild, but I do want it fast paced. But the main thing is I want snappy dialogue and a huge focus on the characters. For genre, I mix and match, and I basically just pull different elements from different genres and subgenres. So that gives me a little bit of everything that I'm looking for. And remember to rotate and put your most prominent features towards the end. We're also going to be hopefully doing a video on the genre box, a group video this Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that soon. So for the brain dump, there are 2 places inside Story Engine where I spend most of my time, and the brain dump is the first. So what I like to do is from beginning to end, I lay out my story, hitting all the major plot points, and then fill in extra details. Like for instance, in this one, I have the prophecies laid out that Story Engine needs to know throughout the story. And just little details. This is a focus on vampires and slayers, so I have different things about what the Story Engine needs to know about witches and vampires and stuff like that. So I take to put everything I could think of inside brain dump. Then I let synopsis generate. And if Story Engine followed the story good, I use that. In this particular one, I had to generate a second time because I didn't like the first synopsis. So as long as it's following the story from beginning to end, not making any weird changes or anything out of order, I copy the brain dump and synopsis. And I bring it over into a Google Doc. So I've already completed this steps to save some time, but what I do is I have both the brain dump and synopsis copied. I go through the synopsis and add in all the extra details that I want so that it will basically be a repeat of my previous brain dump, but I'm using the shortened phrases and words from the synopsis to save on my word count. I do try to max out brain dump, so that's a big issue for me. So once I've gone through the synopsis, redid everything to highlight all the details and major plot points that I want. Copy this. And then I replace my brain dump with that. So it still has all my details. It has my story in order. It's just using, like I said, some shortened versions from the synopsis. And then I generate synopsis again. And I'm not even going to bother reading through this and making y'all wait. Normally, this comes on point, but I do take the time when I'm actually doing the story to read through and correct any errors I see. So everything looks good. So those two are now done. And like I said, this does take a while. I make sure everything's perfect. So there's a lot of editing to combine that original synopsis with my original brain dump to create this final one. And now I know with generating the second synopsis that these two are very on point and in line with each other. Character box is one I'd say I'd have the least advice on. If you are struggling with needing more room or anything, I suggest doing a search in Slack for a character box. There's a lot of people who have some really good ideas on how to make things work, especially for like epic fantasies and things like that. So if you need more room, definitely go to the Slack channel here. I keep mine pretty simple. This one is actually the most I've ever used, almost maxing it out. And that's really because I have these three, which are locations. So I want Story Engine to know exactly where they are and what they look like throughout the whole story. But if I was doing, let me show you. Show you what my characters normally look like. Like I said, my main genre is romance, specifically erotica. So this is what they typically look like. And what I include is, of course, the name, their role in the company, ages. I don't have to be specific. I can just say something like in his mid-20s. And then I like to include physical descriptions and like habits and mannerisms and things like that. So, for instance, in this one, he has a paracord bracelet that plays into the story. He's a neat freak. And then I wanted to note, I can't, oh. So I wanted to note how this character is when he's worried or thinking, stuff like that, because there's a major scene that involves it. And then I took those traits and pretty much made the opposite into my other love interest. So there's a little play there. So Alex is a neat freak. Robin is not. Alex is always seen straightening up Robin's work area. So little things like that. I don't include anything that needs to be changed. Anything like character arcs, all of that is noted in my brain dump and outline. So character box for me stays really simple. I don't change it. Whatever I put here, it stays the same. And I rotate back and forth on whether I let SC generate the characters or I just input my own. Usually it's a combination. I'll let Story Engine generate them first, and then I modify to however I want them to sound. Outline. So obviously you have a little bit less words to work with, but essentially my outline is my brain dump. And what I do is I have this blank document that has my format. I always make a copy. I've already done it. So I have to make that copy. Go to the very bottom. I'll copy in my brain dump. And then I'll start taking the section. I'll copy whatever I know I want in the first section, and I'll put it up here. And like I said, I've already done this. And since it has a few less words, a few hundred less words, I'll need to edit it out. Everything is done. So I think I actually already copied this. Yep, I already copied this, so I'll leave it there because I think I did make a change in one sentence. So again, my outline is essentially a repeat of my brain dump, just not the extra details. This is hitting all the plot points that I need to hit. And beats is the second place where I spend all my time. And I want you to see this. Okay, so this third one right here, this is Story Engine's generation of my beats. And you can see they're all the same scene in each one. So this was SE's generation. And this is where I take that prompt. And I'll just show you in the Google Doc. So I don't have to exit out of that one. And everyone does have access to this tips for Story Engine document. It's linked in Slack if you haven't seen it. So I use one version of these. And here lately I've been using this one, expand this scene summary to provide descriptions and details. So I will take that over into ChatGPT. Spicy Authors, Notion will generate intimate scenes for you as long as there's no non-consent and no harm. So ChatGPT will trigger a lot. Notion will not, at least for now. Hopefully that doesn't change because it's very helpful. So this is, again, SE's generation. This one was generated through ChatGPT, and I'm going to show you the difference. ChatGPT, this one is from Notion. So this is how ChatGPT's, again, this is my scene summary and the prompt. And this is what ChatGPT gave me. And I used two different prompts, variation of the same prompt, but two different ways. This one's the one I said was my favorite, expand the scene summary. This one's asking specifically to expand it into beats. That's the only difference. And you can see it's pretty much the same layout. Show you Notion, same scene for everything. And this is Notion. Again, this one was asking specifically for it to generate in beats. This one was just asking to expand my scene summary and include details and descriptions. I do like this one just because I find it's easier to incorporate into the beats. And this is another one where I go back and forth on if I let SE generate first and use that or just start with the scene summary. So if I let SE generate first, what I'm going to do is go through all of these like this. I wouldn't keep that in there. I would be deleting that. I would go through and make sure everything's in order because every once in a while I've written something incorrectly and it did put it out of order. Or before I've come across in a story too where it generated the scene, the beats. And then as I was reading it, I realized, hey, this would work better if this was up here. So go through, make sure everything's in order. Make sure it's just set, just a mild edit. Just make sure everything's set for the scene. Copy that into ChatGPT or Notion and ask it to expand it. Or like I said, you can also just use the scene summary. And this is what I've been doing lately, is just using the scene summary. So this is copied directly from ChatGPT and Notion with no changes whatsoever. So taking this, you might need to maybe cut this into 2 beats, depending on how you see your scene playing out, but just modify it and make it the way you want, copy it where it needs to be. Then after I've copied and pasted everything, I'll read through it again, and then I will add in my specific details. For instance, I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like whenever I add in my stuff. Okay, so same scene again. I was playing around with the beat header here. So this is what it looks like once I start adding in my details. You can see how lengthy it can get. So this is where I'll say, tell it where the scene is located. You know, if they're in a bedroom, cafe, bookstore, whatever, tell them that. Time of day or weather, if I have a specific image in mind. And then I add all of the action as I see the scene playing out and any lines of dialogue that I want in here. So you can see I've almost maxed this out. And that's my goal for every box pretty much, except for genre. I love to max these out. So it gets pretty lengthy once you add in all your details. And that's the important thing, to tell Story Engine how you see the scene playing out in your head, and then letting Story Engine write out everything in the prose. A little time consuming, but very worth it. I go back to the safe one. And the process from here on out is pretty straightforward. Like I said, I'm spending the majority of my time making sure this is exactly the way I want it. Generating the synopsis again to match that and be everything, have everything in line. And then spending a great deal of time getting my beats the way I want it. Like I said, everything will be copied from ChatGPT and Notion that I like, of course. I will read through it again, add in my lines of dialogue and the action, make sure everything is here, the way I see the scene in my head. And then what I do is I like to generate using Best Prose and Most Accurate. I find I get some really good ideas from both of them. So let me open up this other screen. So I generate Best Prose, and then I'm going to copy it into Scrivener, which I use. You can do this into regular Sudowrite if you don't have a specific program that you like. I'll go back into Sudowrite, generate in Most Accurate, and then copy that again. And then I will repeat that process for all of the chapters, getting all of my prose into Scrivener. And I know that's double word count, but here's a little tip. And again, you can do this in regular Sudowrite or whatever program you like to use. So after I've generated everything, got everything copied into Scrivener, I'm going to go through and say, okay, you know what? I really don't like this chunk. And that's all I'm worried about at first, as I go through, delete the stuff that just doesn't work for my story at all. I put it in this folder for deleted scenes. And I can have it all in one, or I want to organize it better. So I'm never just doing away with all of that stuff that was generated. It's not a lost cause. I can always repurpose this for later, because I have a whole other Scrivener project. Once I'm done with this one and everything's finalized for my manuscript, I'm going to take everything that's in this deleted scene section, transfer it over to that other project. so that if I need some ideas or if I recall, hey, this generated something useful, I'm going to go look into that deleted scenes project, and I can always repurpose stuff. So first step, go through, delete everything I absolutely don't like. And then the next step is combining the two. So first I'll go through, if I have specific ideas, write out the scene the way I want it to, adding to the stuff that SC generated. And I really like to utilize regular Sudowrite too for combining everything and making everything just the way that I want it. So that is pretty much it. Everything after that is basic editing, reading through everything, making sure there's no errors, getting it over to my betas and seeing if they have any ideas or any feedback to give, and then doing my second draft, and it's all done after that. So if you have any questions, let me know, and hopefully this was helpful to you. We'll see you next time.